My name is Mia, and I'm 15 years old. My life changed completely 3 years ago when my parents divorced. They fought constantly, mostly about household responsibilities. Mom stayed home but hated cooking, cleaning, or helping with homework. Instead, she spent hours on her phone, trying to become a beauty influencer. Dad, on the other hand, managed most of the practical stuff, paying bills, making meals, and helping me with school. After the divorce, I split my time between Mom and Dad. Mom moved on quickly, meeting Kevin just a few months later. Kevin was nothing like Dad, controlling, critical, and always finding something wrong with me. He had 2 sons, Ben and Lucas, who were loud and careless, always barging into my room without knocking and taking my things. Kevin dismissed my complaints, saying, "That's just how boys are." Kevin insisted that I call him Dad, which felt wrong. I already had a dad who cared about me. Kevin's obsession with controlling me extended to how I dressed, always criticizing me for wearing dresses or leaving my hair down. He said I needed to be more practical and less girly. Mom never defended me, always agreeing with whatever Kevin said. Things hit a new low when Kevin announced that he got a promotion and planned a family vacation. I was excited, hoping it might make us feel more like a family. But just a day before the trip, everything changed. Mom and I were out shopping when a car rear-ended us. I broke my arm and got a concussion, and the doctors said I needed to stay in the hospital for observation. Kevin showed up later, more annoyed than concerned. All he talked about was whether the trip could still happen. When the doctors said I couldn't travel, Kevin argued about the money he'd lose. He insisted that leaving me alone in the hospital was practical since hospitals are safe. I begged Mom to stay, terrified of being left alone. She seemed hesitant but ultimately sided with Kevin, saying it was just bad timing. The next morning, Kevin arrived ready to leave. Mom barely looked at me as they walked out, leaving me alone in the hospital. I couldn't believe it. A nurse noticed me crying and asked what had happened. I explained, and she offered to call my mom. I shook my head and gave her my dad's number instead. When Dad answered, he sounded shocked and furious. He promised to come as soon as possible. Finally, I felt a bit safer, knowing someone who cared was on their way. 2 hours later, Dad walked in, looking worried but relieved to see me. He hugged me tightly and assured me I wasn't alone. As he sat by my bed, Dad couldn't hide his anger. "Why didn't your mom call me?" he asked. I explained how Kevin insisted it wasn't necessary, and how Mom just went along with it. Dad shook his head, clearly struggling to process it. "You're my daughter. I should have been here from the start." For the first time since the accident, I felt like someone actually saw how much it hurt to be left behind. I didn't have to pretend to be strong or okay. Dad just stayed by my side, making sure I knew I was important. After Dad arrived at the hospital, things felt a lot calmer. He stayed by my side, talking to the nurses and making sure I was comfortable. I could see the frustration in his eyes, but he didn't let it show too much, trying to keep me calm instead. He kept asking questions, how I was feeling, whether I needed anything, if I'd been eating properly. The doctors came by to update us. They confirmed I needed to stay at least another night for observation because of the concussion. Dad thanked them and made sure I had everything I needed, even ordering some real food since I hadn't eaten much. I couldn't help but feel relieved. Finally, someone was treating me like I mattered. Once things had settled down, Dad asked me to explain everything. I hesitated, unsure of how to put it into words without sounding ungrateful. "Kevin wanted to go on the trip no matter what," I said quietly. "He convinced Mom that leaving was the practical thing to do. I begged her to stay, but she just left." Dad clenched his jaw. "That's not okay, Mia. You shouldn't have been left alone like that. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner." I shook my head. "It's not your fault. They just made up their minds. Kevin said it would be a waste of money to cancel." Dad's expression darkened. "Money isn't more important than your safety. I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen again." As we sat there, I could tell Dad was struggling to hold back his anger. I hadn't seen him this upset in a long time. I knew he didn't want to make me feel worse, but just knowing that someone was on my side made a huge difference. A few hours later, a nurse came in to check on me. She seemed relieved to see Dad there. "I'm glad someone's with her now. It's not right for a young girl to be left alone in the hospital," she said, giving Dad a sympathetic look. Dad just nodded, thanking her for looking after me. That night, Dad stayed in the hospital room with me. He pulled out the little fold-out bed and insisted on being there the whole time. We talked about lighter things, school, my friends, plans for when I got better. It was the first time I felt safe in days. The next morning, Dad made a few phone calls. One was to his lawyer, and I couldn't hear much of the conversation, but I picked up words like custody and neglect. After he hung up, he sat down next to me and squeezed my hand. I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen again, Mia. I promise. A part of me wanted to believe it would be that simple, but I knew Kevin and Mom wouldn't just admit they were wrong. Still, I trusted Dad. If anyone could make things right, it was him. When the doctor finally gave the all-clear to go home, Dad signed the discharge papers and helped me gather my things. As we walked out of the hospital, I couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and anxiety. I knew the real confrontation was coming, and I wasn't sure what to expect. In the car, Dad glanced over at me. Mia, you're coming to my place. We'll figure out the rest later. I nodded, grateful that I didn't have to go back to Kevin's house right away. As we drove, I couldn't help but wonder if Mom even knew I was being discharged, or if she even cared. When we got to Dad's place, he made sure I was comfortable and brought me my favorite snacks. It felt good to be home, somewhere I didn't have to watch my every move or worry about being criticized. A few hours later, Mom finally called. Dad put her on speaker, and she sounded almost annoyed. Why did you pick Mia up from the hospital without telling me? She demanded. Dad kept his tone steady. You left her alone. In the hospital. To go on vacation. What were you thinking? Mom hesitated. Kevin said it would be fine. We couldn't just waste the tickets. It wasn't that serious. I couldn't hold back anymore. I was scared, Mom. I broke my arm, I had a concussion, and you just left me there. How could you do that? There was a long pause before she muttered. I thought you'd be fine. Kevin said it wasn't a big deal. Dad cut in. Leaving your injured daughter alone in a hospital is a big deal. You chose Kevin's trip over Mia's well-being. This isn't just about being thoughtless, it's neglect. Mom sounded defensive. You're blowing this out of proportion. Kevin just wanted to make sure we didn't lose money. Dad shook his head. I don't care about the money. I care about Mia's safety. We'll talk about this when you get back. He hung up without waiting for a response. I didn't know what would happen next, but I was grateful to have someone who put me first. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I had a voice. Staying at Dad's place felt like a huge relief. I didn't have to worry about Kevin's rules or his sons barging into my room. Dad made sure I was comfortable, checking on me often and helping with anything I needed. It was a small break from the chaos that had become my life. A few days later, Mom and Kevin returned from their vacation. I was still at Dad's place when Mom called, sounding frustrated. Mia, why aren't you home yet? Kevin says you're being dramatic. We're back now, so just come home. I felt a surge of anger. Dramatic? You left me in the hospital alone. You chose a vacation over me. She hesitated, then softened her tone. It wasn't like that. Kevin thought you'd be fine. I didn't think it would hurt you this much. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You didn't think it would hurt me to be abandoned? Before Mom could reply, Dad took the phone from me. We'll be discussing this in person. I'm not sending Mia back until we sort this out. He hung up before she could argue. That evening, Mom and Kevin showed up at Dad's house. Kevin looked irritated, while Mom looked tired. Dad invited them in, but I stayed close to him, not wanting to be anywhere near Kevin. Kevin wasted no time. This whole situation is ridiculous. Mia's acting like we left her in the woods or something. It was a hospital, she was perfectly safe. Dad didn't hold back. It doesn't matter how safe the hospital was. You left a 15-year-old alone after an accident because you didn't want to miss your trip. That's not just irresponsible, it's neglect. Kevin scoffed. You're just blowing this out of proportion because you never liked me. We had a family vacation planned. Sometimes kids need to learn to toughen up. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. It wasn't about toughening up. I was hurt, scared, and you acted like I was just a problem to deal with. You didn't even ask how I was doing, you just worried about your trip. Mom finally spoke, her voice shaky. Kevin, maybe we shouldn't have left. I didn't think it would affect Mia this much. Maybe I should have stayed. Kevin looked annoyed. We already talked about this, Lisa. You agreed it was better to go. Dad shook his head. You pressured her. You always do. And Lisa, you let him make the decisions without thinking about Mia. That's not okay. Kevin scoffed. I'm just trying to make this family work. Mia's been difficult since the beginning. She doesn't respect me or the boys. I'm not going to walk on eggshells just because she's upset. My heart sank. I wasn't being difficult. I was just trying to protect myself. Dad spoke up firmly. Maybe Mia's not the problem. Maybe the problem is that you expect her to just fall in line without considering her feelings. That's not how family works. Mom looked conflicted, and I could tell she was torn between Kevin and me. Kevin, I think we should have stayed. I didn't realize how much it hurt Mia. Kevin was clearly not used to being challenged. You're seriously taking her side now? After everything I've done for this family? Dad didn't back down. You didn't do anything for Mia. You've controlled and dismissed her for years. I'm done watching my daughter get treated like a burden. If you can't respect her, maybe you're the one who needs to rethink your priorities. Kevin didn't have much to say after that. He looked at Mom, clearly expecting her to defend him, but she just looked down, unable to meet his gaze. Eventually, Kevin stormed out, leaving Mom standing there, unsure of what to do. Dad softened his tone. Lisa, you can't keep choosing him over Mia. She needs to know she's important to you. You can't let him treat her like that. Mom looked at me with a mix of guilt and sadness. Mia, I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought Kevin knew best. I just wanted us to be a family. I couldn't help but feel a bit of hope. I just want you to care about me too. Not just what Kevin wants. Mom nodded slowly. I understand. I'll try to do better. Dad stepped in. Mia will stay with me for a while. You need to think about what's important, Lisa. Your daughter deserves to feel safe and valued. Mom didn't argue. She just nodded and left quietly. As the door closed, I finally felt a sense of relief. For once, I wasn't being silenced or ignored. Dad put his arm around me, reassuring me that I wasn't alone in this. That night, I went to bed feeling like things were finally changing. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to keep quiet about being treated unfairly. Over the next few days, staying at Dad's place felt like a haven. He didn't pressure me to talk about what happened, just made sure I was comfortable and kept reminding me that I was important. I couldn't help but think about Mom, though. Part of me wanted to believe she was just caught up in Kevin's influence, but I couldn't ignore the fact that she chose him over me. One evening, Dad came into the living room with a serious expression. Mia, I've been talking to my lawyer. I want to make sure you're safe and happy. If you want to stay with me longer, I'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. His words gave me hope. I had been terrified that I'd have to go back to Kevin's house and pretend everything was fine. I don't want to go back there, Dad. I can't keep feeling like I don't matter. He nodded, squeezing my shoulder. I'm going to fight for you. You shouldn't have to live in a place where you feel ignored and disrespected. The next day, Mom called again. She sounded tired, almost defeated. Mia, can we talk? I want to see you. I agreed, but only if we met at Dad's place. She hesitated but agreed. When she arrived, she looked different, less put together, almost vulnerable. Dad stayed in the other room, giving us space. I could tell she was nervous. Mia, I've been thinking a lot since the other night. I never wanted you to feel like I didn't care. I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't just forget how she abandoned me. Then why did you leave me in the hospital? Why did you pick Kevin over me? Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know. Kevin kept saying it would be fine, that you were overreacting. I didn't want to cause a fight. I thought I was doing the right thing by keeping everyone happy. That's the problem, Mom. You cared more about keeping Kevin happy than keeping me safe. I replied, trying to hold back my tears. She wiped her face and took a deep breath. I thought I was building a new family, but I didn't realize how much I was losing you in the process. I was wrong. I see that now. I didn't know if I could fully believe her yet, but I could tell she was trying. I just want to feel like I matter to you. Like I'm not just an afterthought. She nodded, looking at the floor. I'm sorry, Mia. I shouldn't have put Kevin's wants before your needs. I didn't realize how much I was pushing you aside. I want to make it right. Before I could say anything else, Dad came in, his presence calm but firm. Lisa, I'm glad you're starting to see what's been happening. But Mia can't go back to that environment unless things change. She needs to feel safe. Mom didn't argue. I know. I want to do better. I just didn't see it before. Dad looked at me, then back at Mom. We'll take this one step at a time. For now, Mia will stay with me. You need to figure out how to make her feel valued again. Mom nodded, clearly emotional but not pushing back. It was the first time I saw her reflect on her choices. After she left, Dad reassured me that no matter what happened, I wouldn't be forced into an unhealthy situation again. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I had control over my own life. I wasn't going to just go along with whatever Kevin and Mom decided. I deserved to feel safe and cared for. Dad promised me that he would keep fighting to make sure I didn't go back to feeling invisible. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, I got a text from Mom. I know I messed up. I love you, Mia. I'm going to work on being better. Please don't hate me. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't hate her. I just couldn't forget how easily she had chosen Kevin's wishes over my well-being. I decided to leave it unanswered for now. I needed time to see if her words would turn into actions. As I lay in bed, I realized that for once, I wasn't just going to quietly accept being treated poorly. I had spoken up, and it felt powerful. I wasn't just enduring anymore. I was standing up for myself. After Mom's visit, I felt a bit of hope mixed with uncertainty. I wanted to believe that she meant what she said, but I couldn't just ignore how easily she had chosen Kevin over me. I needed to see real change, not just hear promises. Staying at Dad's place continued to feel safe. He kept me updated on the custody situation, assuring me that he would make sure I wasn't forced back into a toxic environment. I was relieved that he was taking it seriously and not just brushing off my feelings like Mom had done so many times. A few days later, Mom called again. This time, her tone was softer, less defensive. Mia, can we meet somewhere? Just us. I really need to talk to you. I hesitated but agreed. We met at a small cafe near Dad's place. When I arrived, Mom was already there, looking anxious. I sat down, not really knowing what to expect. She didn't waste time. I've been thinking a lot about what you and your dad said. I realized that I've been so focused on making this new family work that I didn't see how much it was hurting you. I listened, waiting to hear more. She continued, I always wanted things to be perfect after the divorce. When Kevin came along, I thought he was the answer, a strong, stable partner. I didn't see how he was pushing you aside or how I was letting it happen. I'm sorry for not protecting you. I should have been there for you, especially at the hospital. I could see the guilt in her eyes, but I needed to be honest. You left me alone, Mom. You didn't even check if I was okay before going on that vacation. How do I know you won't just do it again if Kevin pressures you? She wiped her eyes. I can't change what I did, but I can promise to do better. I talked to Kevin, and I made it clear that things have to change. I told him that you're my priority. If he can't respect that, then maybe this isn't the right situation for us. Hearing her say that was a relief, but I wasn't ready to just forgive everything. I need time, Mom. I can't just act like it never happened. She nodded, reaching out to hold my hand. I understand. I'll give you space, but I want you to know that I'm serious about changing things. I love you, Mia, and I'm going to prove that from now on. We sat there in silence for a while, sipping our drinks. It wasn't a complete fix, but it was a start. For the first time, Mom seemed to see how much her choices had hurt me. Back at Dad's place, I told him about the meeting. He was cautiously optimistic. It's good that she's reflecting, but you don't have to rush back into anything. You deserve to feel safe and valued. I knew he was right. I didn't want to move back just because Mom said the right things. I needed to see her make changes. The next few weeks were surprisingly peaceful. Mom texted often, checking in and asking how I was doing. She even sent pictures of meals she cooked, saying she was trying to do better at home. Kevin wasn't in the photos, and I wondered if they were having issues. Part of me felt bad for hoping he'd stay out of the picture, but I couldn't help it. One day, Mom called to update me. Kevin's staying with his brother for a while. We both agreed we need some space. I told him that I have to put you first. I'm not going to force you to come back until you're ready. Hearing that made me feel a little lighter. Maybe Mom was starting to understand. Dad seemed cautiously hopeful, too. It sounds like she's finally putting you first. Just remember, Mia, you don't have to make any decisions right now. Take your time. That night, I thought about how much had changed. I wasn't just the quiet, compliant daughter anymore. I had finally spoken up, and people were listening. For once, I felt like my feelings mattered. Before going to sleep, I got a text from Mom. I miss you. I'm working on being a better mom. I hope you'll come home when you're ready. Love you. I didn't reply right away, but I didn't feel angry anymore. I still needed time, but at least I wasn't carrying the weight of being invisible and ignored. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was finding my voice, and it felt good. Weeks passed, and I continued to stay with Dad. He made sure I was comfortable and supported, giving me space to process everything while also being there when I needed to talk. It felt good to just exist without constantly worrying about Kevin's criticism or feeling like a burden. One Saturday afternoon, Mom called again. This time, her voice sounded steadier. Mia, I've been seeing a therapist. She's helping me understand why I let things get so bad. I've been too focused on Kevin's approval and not enough on being your mom. That caught me off guard. Therapy? Mom never talked about her feelings or admitted she needed help. Part of me wanted to believe this was a real change. I want to be better for you. She continued. I realized now that I was trying so hard to make this new family work that I didn't see how much it was hurting you. I'm sorry for not protecting you. Her words sounded genuine, but I still felt hesitant. That's good, Mom. I need more time to believe it. She didn't push. I understand. Just know that I'm trying. I'm not with Kevin right now, and I'm taking time to focus on being a better mom. You deserve that. After hanging up, I sat with those words for a while. It was strange to hear Mom admit fault. I wondered if therapy was helping her see the truth. Dad noticed I looked deep in thought and asked if I was okay. I think Mom's really trying to change, I said. She's seeing a therapist, and says she's putting me first now. Dad nodded thoughtfully. That's a good step. But remember, actions matter more than words. You don't have to rush into anything. I knew he was right. I needed to see consistent effort before I could trust that things would be different. I wasn't ready to move back just because Mom was saying the right things. The next weekend, Mom invited me to have lunch with her, just the two of us. I agreed, wanting to see how she acted without Kevin around. When I arrived, she looked more relaxed than I'd seen her in a long time. We talked about simple things at first: school, my friends, Dad's cooking experiments. Then she looked at me, her eyes serious. Mia, I've been thinking about how I let Kevin control too much. I thought I needed to make him happy to keep our family together, but I see now that it wasn't fair to you. I put his needs above yours, and that was wrong. Hearing her take responsibility made me feel both hopeful and cautious. I just want to know that I matter to you, Mom. I don't want to feel like I have to compete for your attention. She reached out and held my hand. You do matter. More than anyone else. I'm going to work hard to prove that to you. After lunch, she didn't push me to come back home. Instead, she said, whenever you're ready, I'll be here. I'm making changes, not just for you but for myself too. I want to be someone you can rely on. Back at Dad's place, I couldn't help but feel a tiny spark of hope. Maybe things really could change. Dad listened as I told him about lunch, nodding approvingly. It sounds like she's starting to get it. I'm glad she's taking steps to be better. That night, I thought about how different things felt. I wasn't just enduring anymore. I was making choices for myself. I knew I wasn't ready to move back yet, but I also knew I wasn't afraid to speak up if things went wrong again. Before going to bed, I got a text from Mom. Thank you for giving me a chance to make things right. I love you. I replied this time. I love you too. I just need to see that things change. Her quick response made me smile. I understand. I'm not giving up on being the mom you deserve. I didn't know what the future would hold, but for the first time, I felt like I had a say in how things would go. I wasn't just the quiet daughter who went along with everything. I was finding my strength, and that made all the difference. A few weeks later, I was still living with Dad, but things felt different, in a good way. Mom kept reaching out, but she wasn't pushing me to come back. Instead, she would text or call just to check in, asking how I was doing without making me feel pressured. One afternoon, Dad and I were cooking together when Mom called. This time, she sounded more upbeat. Mia, I wanted to tell you that Kevin and I have decided to take a break. I realized that I was trying too hard to make the relationship work while ignoring what was best for you. I couldn't help but feel relieved. Are you okay with that? I asked cautiously. She took a deep breath. Honestly, I feel like I've been living someone else's life for a while. I didn't notice how much I was compromising until I almost lost you. I'm focusing on being better for you now. For the first time, I felt like she was genuinely putting me first. I wasn't ready to move back yet, but I appreciated that she was taking real steps to change. A week later, Mom asked if I wanted to come over for dinner. Just you and me, she promised. I agreed, deciding to see for myself how different things felt without Kevin around. When I arrived, the house was quieter, calmer. Mom had cooked my favorite meal and greeted me with a hug, something she hadn't done in a long time. We sat at the dining table, and it felt like old times, before Kevin and his sons changed everything. Halfway through dinner, Mom looked at me with a serious expression. Mia, I know I hurt you. I let Kevin take over, and I didn't stand up for you. I've been working on understanding why I did that, and I'm realizing that I didn't want to be alone. I thought keeping Kevin happy meant keeping our family together, but I was wrong. Her honesty caught me off guard. I had spent so long feeling like she didn't care, but now it seemed like she was genuinely trying to understand her mistakes. I just want to feel like I matter, I admitted. I want to know that you're not always going to pick someone else over me. She nodded. You do matter, Mia. I was wrong to make you feel otherwise. I'm working on myself, and I'm not going to let anyone push me aside again. You're my daughter, and I need to prove that I'm here for you. After dinner, Mom showed me her new planner. I've started making time just for us. No distractions, no Kevin. I know I have a lot to make up for, but I'm committed to doing better. I could see she was genuinely trying. It wasn't perfect, and I still felt cautious, but I didn't feel as invisible as I used to. Back at Dad's, I told him about dinner. He seemed cautiously hopeful, just like me. It sounds like she's starting to understand. Take it slow, though. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. I knew he was right. I wasn't going to rush back just because things seemed better. I needed consistency. Mom kept texting me regularly, sharing updates about how she was doing. She even started going to a support group for parents adjusting to blended families. One night, as I was scrolling through my messages, I saw a text from Kevin. I heard you're staying at your dad's. Thought you should know your mom's a wreck. You need to come home and stop being selfish. My stomach dropped. I didn't reply, but I showed it to Dad. He just shook his head. You don't owe him a response. You've done nothing wrong. Let your mom handle her own choices. I blocked Kevin's number, feeling a small sense of victory. I wasn't going to let him guilt me into doing what he wanted anymore. The next weekend, Mom invited me to go hiking, just the two of us. It was something we used to do before everything changed. As we walked, she seemed lighter, like a weight had been lifted. She admitted that living without Kevin's constant control made her realize how much she had been compromising. I don't know if I'll get back with him, she said. Right now, I'm focused on being your mom and figuring out who I am without him telling me what to do. For the first time, I believed her. She wasn't just saying what I wanted to hear, she was changing her mindset. As we reached the top of the trail, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. That night, Mom texted me. Thanks for today. I miss just being with you. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. Love you? I replied with a simple, love you too. I'm proud of you for trying. For the first time, I felt like maybe we could rebuild our relationship. It wasn't going to be easy, and I wasn't ready to move back just yet, but I wasn't scared of speaking up anymore. I had found my voice, and I wasn't going to lose it again.